Hello all and welcome back to Party Chat. So, just a couple of days ago I beat the full from the ground up remake of Link's Awakening that came out on Nintendo Switch, and I guess I thought, hell, I'll turn on the microphone and share my thoughts about it because it was overall an experience that I thoroughly enjoyed. And I don't know if that's something I was necessarily expecting, because while I was excited for the game before it came out, I'd had some past experience with 2D Zelda. I loved A Link Between Worlds on the 3DS, and I've played A Link to the Past before and I've enjoyed them, but overall I wouldn't say I'm a hardcore Zelda fan by any stretch of the imagination, despite enjoying a few of them over the past few years. And at the same time, I also don't really cover Nintendo a lot on this channel, but anyway, who cares? Let's talk about Link's Awakening. So again, like I said, I really enjoyed the game for a number of reasons. Obviously, the first thing that stands out, whether or not you've played Link's Awakening before when it originally came out in 1993 on the Game Boy, or whether of course it's just a new experience to you like it was for me, you see the game, you look at the gameplay, and wow, I mean, the art style that the developers chose to go with for this remake is something really unique, and I think really fantastic. It's obviously incredibly aesthetically pleasing. It really fits the overall vibe of the world, because like I said, even though I never played this game before, even though I'm not a hardcore Zelda fan, there is something distinct about this game's style in general, narratively speaking. I mean, the whole thing is set on this weird, bizarre island with Mario villains, for God's sake, so it's already got this kind of weird atmosphere about it, especially when you consider from a gameplay perspective. While typically, for the most part, it does follow the more traditional Zelda formula of dungeons and using items to get to areas, you know, things you obviously expect from a Zelda game, the fact that it has these 2D platforming sections that are incredibly basic, but that the fact that they're there and do play a prominent role from time to time, those things really make it clear that this game is something quite different even for the Zelda series. So I think having this really cutesy, quirky art style that basically, I guess for lack of a better description, makes everything seem like it's a toy. And it looks absolutely fantastic, love it. And from my limited understanding of the original game, having gone back and watched little bits of gameplay after beating this remake, I really think this art style does justice to what the original vision of the developers was, even back, what, 20 plus years ago now, 25 years ago or so. And then as a result of that, it made the world and the map super fun to explore. Obviously, it being a 2D Zelda game and being a remake of an old game, the map is relatively small, I suppose. If your limited experience with Zelda is in Breath of the Wild, then obviously this is nothing like that. This is a very small 2D over-the-top map, but I really liked it a lot. It was fun to explore because of the art style and because of the way that the game is structured to progress you through these different areas, which of course links into the traditional Zelda gameplay structure that I touched on briefly. Obviously, it's super basic, but it's also super fun. Like, you know what you're getting from these kind of games if you've ever played them before. You know you're going to be wandering around the overworld, doing some little tasks for people, most likely, exploring different areas of the map, all in service of finding a way to get to that next dungeon, of which there are 8 in this game. So that stuff is all super fun, and then of course once you get into the dungeons, they're definitely some of the most simplistic I've ever experienced in the series, but nonetheless, they do follow that formula. You go in there, each dungeon traditionally has a kind of item associated with it. You've got to work your way through the different rooms, solving puzzles, killing enemies, getting keys, and working your way through like that until, of course, you reach the final boss, and then you move on to the next one. And I think there's a reason that these games still sell well today, and there's a reason they're looked back on so fondly all these years later. And I do think it has got to do with, obviously, a lot of different factors in the fact that people love Link, people love these adventures, but I think a lot of that has to do with this simplistic gameplay structure I'm talking about. There's something so appealing about it that even though it's so old, it obviously beginning with the original Legend of Zelda on NES many years ago, that I'm sitting here today and millions of people are still around the world playing these games today and loving them still, for having that simplistic structure, because it's just really fun to progress through a game in this way. I don't know, it's hard to explain, I guess. If you've played one of these 2D Zelda games before, or even the 3D ones which follow a very similar kind of structure and formula obviously, then you know what I'm talking about. There's something so fun about it. Breath of the Wild is obviously a little bit different in the way it approached it, but yeah, I guess any of these more traditional Zelda games, which is most of them, there's something about that makes them really appealing, I think. With that being said though, I think that the focus of the progression through the puzzle solving and the items and working crap out for yourself, it comes with it, at least for me, an inherent problem that it's often quite frustrating to progress in the game, at least for me. Play the game however the hell you want, no judgment here, but I try and avoid using a guide or getting any help or anything like that, and the game overall is quite easy, I do have to say. I think most of the time most people won't need a guide or anything like that, but because the game focuses so much on puzzles and basic logical problem solving, there's something just frustrating about that when from time to time you just can't figure out what you're meant to do next. And that happened to me a few times, and when that happens it's frustrating because I didn't want to look at a guide, and it was just really annoying knowing that I was missing something obvious. And there was a few times where I reluctantly had to look something up online because I just couldn't take it anymore, and then when I searched it up and the answer was super obvious right in front of me the whole time, there's something that really kind of pisses me off about that, to be honest. When the solution to something I've been stuck on for so long is so obvious and I just didn't see it. And to be clear, like I said, this is a me problem. Lots of people probably don't have this problem, but it's just something that comes with the nature of the game and what it is that doesn't quite click with me in that way, and that definitely detracts from my overall experience of enjoying the game. But I obviously don't want this to detract from the experience that the developers designed. I will quickly say the story actually really surprised me. I don't really want to give it away necessarily. I think the ending is pretty obvious. It's definitely a big spoiler, I guess, but it's pretty obvious for those of you who've played the game or know anything about the game really. It's, I guess, not really a twist ending, I don't know. It became pretty obvious to me pretty quickly, but before I ever played the game, before jumping into it, I had no idea about the ending or anything like that, so I won't say anything else about it explicitly, but I will say it surprised me in a way I didn't expect a Zelda story to ever surprise me, so that's pretty cool, I guess. Pretty interesting I'm finding out spoilers today in 2019 from like 26 years ago, but anyway, there you go. And along with all that, I did find, honestly, that the game was quite a substantial experience for an old Game Boy game, honestly. Like, for a title that originally released in 1993, I wasn't expecting it to be this substantial in size. It took me, I think, in the end, around 17 hours to beat. And honestly, if you'd asked me beforehand, I didn't think it would take me that long. I didn't think the game would be all that long. I didn't expect to get that much entertainment value out of my purchase, so that's a good thing for sure. Overall, I think I would definitely recommend Link's Awakening for people who haven't played it before. If you have played it before, then obviously you know what you're getting into. You can very easily just look at the gameplay, look at the trailers and see how the art style has changed, because that's the only thing that's really new. There are some minor features, like there's a little dungeon creator mode thing that I barely use because it's kind of boring. But if you love the game because you've played it before, definitely check it out. If you like the art style, if you've never played it before, definitely check it out. I know when the reviews came out there was discussion regarding performance issues and frame rate drops, and yes, they are definitely present. I noticed them definitely from time to time when you're transitioning between areas or coming out of loading screens and things like that. There's a noticeable dip from 60 frames to 30 frames, but it by no means ruined my experience at all. It was mostly just a 2-second period where you see the frame rate clearly drop, but it's not like it affects gameplay or anything like that, so I wouldn't let it affect your decision at all. And that's of course keeping in mind that the game is full price for a remake of a very old game, but like I said, if you love this game, then that shouldn't really be a problem for you if it means that much to you. And if you've never played it before, like I said, it was a 17-hour experience, and I think for full price that's worth it, honestly. I really enjoyed myself with it. But let's be real, you've already made your decision. The game came out like 16 days ago already at this point, I think. So there you go, you know what you're in for. I guess in summary, I'm just surprised of how timeless and enjoyable this game really was for me anyway. Alright, that's enough from me. Let me know in the comments below if you've played Link's Awakening, what you think about it and all that good stuff. Leave a like, subscribe, that'd be awesome. This has been SirCazz, farewell.